I couldn't stand the sight of him anymore. Every time he entered the room, a wave of disgust washed over me. How did my Duke become such a burden? In the silence between our words, a love story crumbled. Now, I realized the true cost of unspoken pain, and it is a price I can never repay. I thought we had time to fix things, time to heal. I sat in the parlor, staring at the muted television. My mind wasn't on the show, it was on Duke. I could hear his footsteps approaching, heavy and tired. The door cracked open, and I felt his presence fill the room. My heart sank. I clenched my jaw and moved my face away, pretending not to see him. Honey, won't you welcome your husband? He asked, his voice soft, but carrying the weight of exhaustion. I turned slowly, my eyes narrowing as I scanned him from head to toe. His shirt was wrinkled, his shoes worn. I let out a loud, deliberate sigh, letting him know exactly how I felt. Without words, I stood and walked out of the room. Duke's shoulders slumped, as if I had just knocked the wind out of him. He sat on the couch, his head hung low. I glanced back from the hallway. He looked so defeated, but I couldn't care. Not anymore. It had been months, years, since he had done anything to make me feel secure. The weight of running this family was entirely on my shoulder, and I was tired. After what seemed like hours, I had him come into the bedroom. I stood up immediately, ready to leave the room. I didn't want to hear another excuse, but before I could walk out, he grabbed my hands gently. Honey, what's the issue? He asked, his voice trembling. What's not the issue? I snapped, yanking my hand off from him. Please talk to me, he pleaded. Just leave me alone, Duke. Leave me alone. You are suffocating me. Is it because of the Christmas money I haven't given you yet? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I turned to face him, my anger spilling out uncontrollably. Why won't I be angry, Duke? You don't provide for this family anymore. I have told you over and over to find a side hustle, but you just won't listen. This is Christmas. I haven't bought clothes for the children. We haven't even stocked the kitchen for the season. And you stand there acting like everything is okay. I didn't care that my voice was rising. I was done holding back. You were a vulcanizer before you got that office job. Why not combine both? At least then we won't be sinking. He looked at me, his face pale. You know I almost died the last time the machine developed a fault. I still suffer from PTSD. I can't go back. Excuses. That's all you ever have. Excuses. I fired back. Honey, please, just give me until next week. I promise I will do something. I stared at him. My heart hardened. Don't come near me until then, I muttered coldly and stormed out of the room. In the days that followed, I avoided him. I slept on the couch most nights, not caring if the children noticed. Casey, our eldest, asked me once, Mommy, are you and I fighting? No, sweetheart, we are just talking about some things. I lied, trying to force a smile. But I knew he could see the sadness in my eyes. Duke had been different lately, and not in a good way. There was a time when I admired him, when his hard work as a vulcanizer gave us a decent life. We weren't rich, but we managed. Then came the office job, and I thought we do finally rise above our struggles. But that job never paid enough, and instead of working 2 jobs like most men, he let pride stop him from going back to vulcanizing. I begged him, but his answer was always the same. I can't go back, Nyezu. Not after what happened. Not even for your family, I would ask. My voice dripping with frustration. We hadn't shared a real conversation in weeks. Our marriage was slowly dying, and we both knew it, but neither of us did anything to stop it. Duke started coming home late. I thought it was another excuse to avoid facing me, but I had no idea. One evening, he came home later than usual, his clothes smelling of burnt rubber and oil. I eyed him suspiciously. Where have you been? I asked. He hesitated, rubbing his temples. Just fixing things, Nyezu. I shook my head. Fixing things? You are still lying to me. Look, I went back to the workshop, he confessed. My eyes widened. You did what? I have been helping Uche at his workshop, but only when he is not around. I didn't want you to know. I wanted to surprise you with the money. His voice was soft. I stared at him, stunned. You went back without telling me? I didn't want to disappoint you. I know I have failed you as a husband, he admitted, his voice breaking. I didn't know what to say. A part of me felt guilty. But another part of me was still angry. Why couldn't he just be honest with me? Days passed. I kept my distance. Even though Duke had made an effort, I wasn't ready to forgive him. Not yet. One afternoon, I was sitting with Casey and Bud, eating lunch when my phone rang. Casey passed it to me. The caller ID was Duke. I hesitated before answering. Hello, ma. Please come to St. Thomas Hospital. Something happens to your husband. The world around me blurred. I stood up so fast that my chair crashed to the floor. What happened? I asked, my voice trembling. But the call had ended. I grabbed my bag and ran out, barely telling the children where I was going. Fear gripped my heart, squeezing tighter with each passing second. When I reached the hospital, I found Uche pacing the hallway. His face was pale, his eyes filled with sorrow. Where is he? I asked, panic rising. He led me into a room where Duke lay on a bed, hooked up to machines. He looked so weak, so fragile. I started sobbing uncontrollably. Uche placed a hand on my shoulder, his voice low. I told him not to go to the workshop today, but he wouldn't listen. What happened? I demanded. He looked at me. Anger flashed in his eyes. Oh, so now you care, huh? Where was this concern when he was suffering in silence? I froze, guilt washing over me. Do you know that your husband fainted twice at work before they sacked him? His blood pressure was through the roof. He couldn't tell you because he was too ashamed. He came to me for help, said he were pressuring him, and he didn't know what else to do. Uche's voice cracked as he relayed Duke's secret. I stood beside Duke's bed, holding his hands, my tears soaking the sheets. I am sorry, honey. I am so sorry, I whispered. Please, honey, don't leave me. The kids need you. I need you too. But it was too late. The doctors tried, but Duke's injury were too severe. He took his last breath as I clung to his lifeless hand. Life after Duke's death was cruel. The landlord gave us notice and we were soon evicted. I couldn't afford rent and couldn't pay for Casey and Buddha's school fees. We were on the street, my children becoming shadows of themselves. I cried every night, haunted by regret. My children asked me why I cried so much, but I couldn't find the words to explain how much I had lost, how much we had all lost. This was my life now, a widow, homeless, with two children who didn't understand why their world had fallen apart. And every day, I wish I had listened sooner. I didn't think I'd be here advising as a widow, but life has a way of teaching us lessons in the hardest ways. I lost my husband Duke too soon, and while the pain of losing him is heavy, the weight of regret is far worse. I want to share my experience with you, not to blame or criticize, but to open your eyes and heart before it's too late for you too. I was angry with Duke for a long time. Our marriage hit rough patches, as all do. We argue about money, about his job, about him not being enough. I felt like I was carrying the weight of our family alone, and in my frustration, I pushed him away. I wanted him to be stronger, him to fight harder, to do more. I didn't realize that he was already fighting battles I couldn't see. Duke was struggling in silence. He was too proud to tell me he had lost his job and too ashamed to admit he felt like a failure as a husband and a father. He wanted to protect me from the truth, but in doing so, he became distant. Instead of listening, I let my anger and disappointment control my actions. I shut him out when what he needed most was support and understanding. How I wish I had known then what I know now. To every married woman, here's my plea to you. 1. Listen without judgment. Your husband may not always express his fears or burdens, but that doesn't mean he is not carrying them. Create a space where he feels safe to open up. Ask him how he's doing and listen without criticizing or assuming he's weak. Sometimes the strongest thing we can do for our loved ones is just to listen. 2. Don't let anger build a wall. Anger and frustration are natural in any relationship, but don't let them fester. Address issues with love, not harsh words. If I could turn back time, I would have told Duke that I was proud of him and that we could face anything together. A marriage can't survive when anger becomes a barrier to communication. 3. Appreciate his efforts, even the small ones. It's easy to focus on what is lacking, especially when financial stress or life's pressure weighed heavy on your shoulders. But don't forget to appreciate the little things your husband does. Even when Duke struggled, he was trying, working odd jobs behind my back just to make sure we are okay. I didn't see it then, I see it now. 4. Seek help together, not apart. Marriage isn't meant to be faced alone. I thought Duke should handle his issues issues and I do handle mine. But that's not how a partnership works. If you are struggling, whether emotionally, financially, or in any other way, seek help together. Don't let pride stop you from leaning on each other or even asking for outside help if needed. Finally, value every moment. Life is fragile. I learned this the hard way. One Duke was taken from me unexpectedly. Don't let the little things steal your joy. Hold each other close. Say I love you often and never assume there will always be more time to make things right. I never got the chance to say everything I wanted to do. I never got the chance to tell him that despite our struggles, I still love him deeply. Don't make the same mistake I did. Love your husband now. Listen to him now. Walk through your issues now while you still have the chance. Marriage isn't easy. It's a journey of ups and downs, but it's worth fighting for. I hope my story helped you avoid the painful regret I live with every day.